Hey everybody, this is Chad Carson again. In the last video, we talked a lot about a definition of wealth. And one of the ideas that came out of that was that wealth isn't just about money. That the central thing that we usually talk about with building wealth is accumulating money. But I put the idea out there that in fact, to get what we really want in life, you could actually look at three or more, but I'm just talking about three main ones. Three currencies that could get us what we want. And the first one's time. The second one at the center, of course, is money. And then the third is mobility. So this idea says that the things that rather than just defining things by the actual currency, that these currencies get us what we want. They're a medium of exchange. So that we use these currencies to get the actual things that we want out of life. We buy things with money. We use our time to do the hobbies or the trips or the time we want to spend doing the things we want. And we need the mobility. We've got to, if we're stuck in one location or we can't move around because we're not healthy enough, then we don't have the mobility to do the things we want. So let me give you a quote, again, another quote from Tim Ferriss, who's the guy I got this idea from in his really good book, The 4-Hour Work Week. Tim talks about it this way. He says, people don't want to be millionaires. They want to experience what they believe only millions can buy. 1 million in the bank isn't the fantasy. The fantasy is the lifestyle of complete freedom it supposedly allows. And when I read this quote, I think about this cartoon I used to watch when I was in elementary school about Scrooge McDuck. And he used to have he was a multi-millionaire, and he used to have a bunch of money in this big tower, and he'd go swimming in his money. So unless you want to use all your money to go swimming and just stick it someplace and hoard it, I don't think most of you are going to do that. You're actually wanting to use the money for something, not just to swim in it. And so the point here is, by thinking about your wealth in more than one way than just money, it forces you to start thinking about, what would I do with the money that I get? And this really came to roost with me when we were building our business, and in third year in, we had a model that we were modeling a couple of other real estate investors who were making $1 million per year. And we studied their business, and they would buy and sell 50 houses a year. And after they did that, they made $1 million. And so we said, okay, that sounds good. I think we can do everything we need to do with $1 million. And so we just set out to just model exactly what they were doing. And as we were doing that and building it and started doing pretty well with it, we weren't there yet, but we noticed that to make this $1 million a year, there was a whole lot of time we were spending to grow that kind of business. There was a whole lot of sacrifice and some risk of our mobility, in terms of you had to be on site. There were lots of projects going. There was always a fire to put out. There were just so many different things going in so many different directions to make the money. And we were also sacrificing or investing our money to putting money in the business to make this happen as well. And so there were risks there. And as we were thinking about these risks and these sacrifices we were making in the current time, we started asking ourselves, now what was it we were going to do with that $1 million? Why do we want that $1 million in the end per year? And we actually started writing down the things that we were thinking about. And when my business partner and I talked about it, we said, you know what? The things we want to do are, we want to travel for extended periods of time. We want to play basketball in the middle of the day for 2 hours. There's just pick up basketball games that we like to do. And we wanted to be able in the middle of the day to go do that and it not cause any problems. And as I've talked to other people, and asked them the same question, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? Very often travel comes up. Very often hobbies, things that they just don't have time to do, or exercise, or run a marathon, or hike more, or get outdoors, or go camping. Some people want to volunteer. They have these causes that if they had more time, they'd be able to go volunteer and donate their time, even though it didn't make them any money, because it's just a cause they really believed in and thought was important, and it was their calling. So there's all sorts of things that we want to contribute and do in life, but then can you define them? This is where the business model comes in. Define, how much time do I need to do these things? How much money do I need to do these things? And how much mobility do I need to do them? And we were shocked, literally shocked, when we figured out that, all the time and investment of time, money, mobility we're making now isn't all the money we would make, we could do these things a lot sooner, and we don't need all that money to do a lot of things that we want to do. So we changed our entire business model. And so this for me is a really powerful concept that I think I'm giving it to you, because as you're building your business, and as you're thinking about it, as you're making your goals, if you just think about the money, it can sacrifice some of these other things. And I like to think, I'll draw a little graph. Sometimes it helps me think about it. There are some people, there's obviously a balance point here, but there are some people, let's say you were just out of college and you had very little money. So this is the zero and this is a lot of both, a lot of each currency. So when you're just getting out of college, you're at this point where you have very little money. So you're at this point in the scale when you have a whole lot of time. So the things that don't require a lot of money, you can do. You're flexible, you got mobility, you're young, you're healthy, you can move around. And yet we still know that to do some of the things we want, we need a little bit more money. So maybe that's not ideal. But then you get into the working world, you're working. You start to make a whole lot of money at that point, but think how little time you have. And so it's just flipped. You've gone from one extreme to another. And so if you're deliberate about it, though, if you actually have goals and say, I need this much time, I need this much mobility, you'll make choices about which jobs you take. You'll make choices about what kinds of real estate you invest in. You make choices about the business model. And you'll make choices about when is enough. And if you have this much money, is that enough to do what I need to do? Am I going to keep on going and making more and more money when it's sacrificing my time and mobility? You have a measurement to say, all right, that's enough. I heard a quote, John Rockefeller was the wealthiest person in the world for a long time in the late 1800s. And they asked him the question, when is it enough? How much money do you need to make when you'll say it's enough? And he said, and I think the answer to the quote was just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. And that's the idea that a lot of us have, because we haven't defined it, I don't believe, our time and mobility and money. So there's one other quote I want to share with you about this subject. And this is by Rolf Potts in a book called Vagabonding. It's not about business and real estate, but it's a really cool book about traveling and traveling around the world. And it says, in spite of the fact that America is famous for its unhappy rich people, most of us remain convinced that just a little more money will set life right. In this way, the messianic metaphor of modern life becomes the lottery, that outside chance that the right odds will come together to liberate us from financial worries once and for all. So I bring this topic up because I think it's such a prevalent idea when you get sold education products, and a lot of the real estate and a lot of the marketing is, if only you had enough money. If only, and it's almost like you win the lottery. As soon as you get your business going and your investments, then you'll be able to enjoy life, then you'll be happy, then you'll have security. And it's always pushing it out into the future. It's always a future happiness. And what Rolf is saying, and what I found for myself, and just a challenge for me, because I definitely am goal-oriented and look towards the future, is that think about now in relation to what you're sacrificing and investing now in comparison to the future. And if your whole happiness, if the dependence of your happiness and security is all future-oriented, if you've got to win the lottery to be happy, you might want to step back and think about it. Because if you're not happy now, are you really, when you get more money, are you really going to be happier? And are you sacrificing the things now? I mean, just to make a huge amount of money in the future and to be secure in the future, what are you sacrificing right now? How much time are you spending to do that? Is it worth it? Maybe you would have a little bit less money in the future, but is it worth not spending the time to go to your kids' ball games or to travel or to visit, take care of your mother who's sick or something? I mean, everybody has their personal choices, and none of these choices are easy, but the goods you're usually sold are that it's all in the future and you got to win the lottery, then you'll be happy. So this is just to get you to think about that, and that's really what all this is about, is just a framework to think about it, a philosophy of wealth. And this has been really fruitful for me. I mean, I'll continue my story. Whenever we decided to change the model, my wife and I said we would love to go on a trip abroad, and that was my idea. Millionaires would be able to take multiple month trips and just travel around. And as we started to define this, and I recommend you do this, started defining our goals in terms of time, money, and mobility, this 4-month trip that we wanted to take, the money was the least difficult part. It was definitely an amount of money, but it was less than a luxury car, for example. You can save up the money and travel very, very well. And you can choose locations in the world that are not as expensive. And when you have large amounts of time, when you have the time currency, the money is less of a factor. You don't have to be in a rush and go for 2 weeks and get the most expensive one. And it's many multiple factors less expensive when you have control of your time and control of your mobility as well. And so we defined the amount of money it took, and the time and the mobility were the bigger challenges. And we were able to take in a traditional business or entrepreneurial business or a job wouldn't allow us the time to do it. And so these things are what real estate investing and the entrepreneurial world can get you. And the money, it can certainly get you, but just as importantly, to do some of the things I think that a lot of you want to do, the time and the mobility are just as important. And so build that into your business. Think about the kinds of properties you buy. Think about the people you model in your business. Do they have the time and the mobility that you're looking for to do these things? Or are they just somebody who makes millions of dollars and brags about it, and that's who you're going to model and copy? We did that for a while, and we realized that's not exactly what we wanted. So I hope this challenges you a little bit. I hope you'll use this and use it in your own goal setting and your own thinking. And of course, all the different models we're going to be talking about and the techniques of real estate investing will apply to this, and we'll use this as we go forward. So I really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you in another video.